Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon. Today we're going to talk about how to play Sand. Sand is the most recent medium box game from Devir. It has this Dune theme to it where you're riding sandworms around the desert. But in this game you are picking up various goods, plants, crafts, and relics, delivering them to the outposts, the cities, or the port to gain the most money. At the end of the game, whoever has accumulated the most money at the end of 6 rounds or 6 days will become the winner. So how do we go about doing that? Well, you're going to take your worm Meeple here, who starts up at the port, and you're going to travel from city to outposts, through oasis to more cities, more outposts, and you're going to be spending actions to pick up these cubes, which represent the goods. These basic colors that are out right now are plants. You'll pick these up, you'll add them to your worm, which your worm can carry at the beginning of the game 3 slots, but for everything they carry makes them gives you less access to actions that you can take. But you're going to pick them up, you're going to then deliver them most likely to these outposts. These outposts are going to give you money. They're also, if you deliver 2 goods of the goods that they are looking for example, here this outpost is looking for red and white goods, white plants. If so, they're going to give you an orange craft. Or if you deliver their lesser known goods, say the black and the blue, if you deliver those together, they're going to give you some points to try and win their favor. We'll talk about more of those at the end of the game. Or if you come down here to these lower outposts that are furthest from the port, they're going to give you relics. Again, if you deliver the 2 combined goods that they're looking for. You don't have to deliver both of those. You can come to any port and deliver any amount of basic goods, plants, and just get your money. Once you deliver a good, your goods are going to be filled into your record of delivery that's in the middle section of your player board here. And so you'll not only gain money, but you'll also gain whatever symbol you cover up. So you're going to get an additional benefit for delivering those goods. All of this you do utilizing the action discs that you have on your player board, choosing which ones you want to use to fill up the action spaces here. At the beginning of the game, you get 3. You can unlock the 4th one by growing your worm, but you're going to select the actions, and let's say we want to take these 3 actions, because when you go to take those 3 actions, you're going to utilize the strength of the die showing. And these dice are used by everyone at the table, so they are kind of community strength dice, and they don't get re-rolled until the end of a day or round. So when it comes time to take your turn, you can say take a red action at a strength of 5, a black action at a strength of 4, and a white action at a strength of 5 again. But as you collect goods, let's say we pick up this good, the goods have to go into your worm, reducing the amount of actions that you can take on your next turn. So keep that in mind, that the more goods you are carrying, the more you are burdening your worm, making them less effective in future turns. As we look closer to our player board here, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of stuff. A lot of your game is focused on your player board. So first of all, you have your individual character. Now, they recommend that you play your first game with just this standard character on the backside. That basically just means they have no asymmetrical power. But personally, this is the way to play. With the asymmetrical powers, your individual person is going to have a power that's different from the person sitting next to you. But everybody has the same worms, and the worms all start on their basic side or their beginner side here. But as you allow them to grow, you can flip over this tile. Doing this the first time allows you to remove this disc, gaining you access to more actions. And then finally, removing the tile altogether gains you access to your adult worm. So the most important thing that your worm tells you is how much it costs to travel along a certain route. So if we look over here at this area of our of the map, you'll notice that from Glass City to this outpost here, there's 2 ways. There's this way, which takes you on a green path, stop at an oasis, and on a gray path, or takes you on a single path, but this is the shortcut. If we look very closely to our worm here, our worm is telling us that To take the green path, we would use up 3 water, 1 food, and 1 health. Those are tracked right here just below our worm. So to spend 3 water, we would simply spend 3 water, 1 food, and 1 health. The only problem with that is that if we are trying to get here as quickly as possible, taking the shortcut's the obvious choice, but it's going to be the hardest choice. It would cost us 2 water, 5 food, and 4 health. On top of that, to take certain routes, you need to use a action and a die of a specific strength. So in this little gray section here, it tells us that to take a shortcut, we need a 6. To take a green path or a cobblestone gray path, we only need a 4. It doesn't matter what color we use, but if we bring our dice back here, we can see that red, black, or white gives us the option to take those. So we would have to spend one of our action discs in those colors, in one of those colors, to take that movement action. We'd also have to spend the requisite health, food, and water from our worm. Our worm does not get more water, it does not get more food, it does not heal at the end of any turn or even any round. In order to heal back up or give them water or give them food, aka care for your worm, you need to spend, again, an action based on the die color that you spend, and the strength of that die is what you're going to gain back. So if you want more water, you would have to spend your blue action token, and in this case, we would get 3 water back. Cannot go above 15. Spending red gives us our food back, and spending white and black together. So the hardest thing to do is to heal your worm, because you have to actually spend 2 actions to heal your worm, but your white and black together give you your health recovery. At any point in time, there are things you can spend to increase the die value based on the community dice that are sitting over there. First of all, you have your prayer track here. At any point in time, you can spend your white action, all right, based on the strength of the white die to gain a certain amount of prayer. Then you can spend prayer at a 1-to-1 ratio to increase any die that isn't sufficient. So if I really wanted to travel the shortcut and I had a 4, I could spend 2 prayer to jump up, make it a 6, and then I can take the shortcut. I still have to spend everything, but prayer allows me to increase the value of the die. You can also spend money. So you start the game with 5 money. Money, same as prayer, at a 1-to-1 ratio can help you increase your die strength. But again, the name of the game is to have the most money by the end of the game. So spending it frivolously to increase die values is not necessarily recommended. Last track here we have is the black track. You can increase the black value by spending the black die, and based on the value of the black die, you would increase their prestige track. Prestige just means you gain that much more money when you deliver a good. When you deliver a good, you gain that much extra money, and your prestige resets to 0. All right, so we've talked about our various tracks here and our worm. The last thing on this half of the board is how much are the goods are worth, whether they are sought after, whether they're high in demand, we would follow the green number, or whether they're low in demand, we would look for the red number. So if we deliver a red good that is in high demand to someplace, we will get 3 coins for that. Looking at the middle of our board here, we already talked about our action slots and our action cubes, but what else is important about these is that if I am carrying a blue good, I no longer have access to my blue action. I actually have to flip this token over, and you can see that it is being held up by that blue good. So not only does, deciding which goods you're going to pick up important because you fill up that slot, giving you only, in this case, 2 actions, but it also then says I cannot use the blue die again for the rest of the round or until I deliver this good to somewhere and get it off my worm. All of these have the ability to flip them over. And if at any point in time, and this is one of the most forgotten rules, in my opinion. At any point in time, if you absolutely have to be able to take an action, you have to be able to take a blue action for some reason, but you're locked up because you're carrying a blue good, you can drop this blue good off. It goes in this little box over here on the right. That allows you to flip this token over, and then obviously, if you so choose, use that token to take an action that turn. But this cube stays right here until your next turn, because on your next turn, this blue cube means that you can take a free blue action without having to spend your blue token on your turn for free. You know, depositing goods, leaving it behind, ditching them off their worm. I don't thematically know why this is such a good action, but it basically gives you the ability to take that action that turn and then gives you a free action in the future. This does not go into your record of delivery. It goes back into the bag, but it gives you the ability to take that free action. So using that talent or that skill that everybody has can definitely make a difference in a game. So other things that we have on our player board here is our hideout. After you have delivered your third good and covered up this third spot, you get to put your hideout out. It can go in any city, any oasis, any outpost on the game board. And when you are at that same location as your hideout, you can actually take goods out of your worm and put them into your hideout. You don't lose them. They simply are stored there. And as a free action, anytime your worm is at the same location as your hideout, you can trade goods amongst your worm and your hideout as free as you'd like. So that's the benefit of your hideout. Then last thing down here, we have our record of delivery. Again, every time you deliver a good, you fill in from top to bottom, left to right, and then you get to gain what is underneath what you've just covered up. And some of them give you a choice, like 5 gold or upgrade your worm. If at any point you have completely filled up a row, you then would start filling up down here, and that's going to give you 5 points at the end of the game. Last but not least, we have our allies here. These guys all start flipped over. In their exhausted state, we can't use them. But anytime you cover up these symbols here with the little person with the empty head, you get to choose one of these and flip it over. The custodian here would allow you to heal only using a white or black die, your choice, but makes healing your worm a lot cheaper. The traveler here allows you to take 2 travel actions for the cost of 1 action and that 1 die. You do, however, have to pay for both travel actions on your worm. So the worm has to take the same amount of damage and use up the same amount of health and food. By the way, I didn't show this earlier. You may have noticed, but the bigger your worm gets, the easier they can travel and not take up so much food, water, and health. Your junior worm here, or your baby worm, gives you the ability to double up your goods that your worm is carrying. Essentially, you think of it as you throwing that extra cube onto this worm. But the trick is that the cube has to match. So if you're carrying a blue cube, you can stack another blue cube on top if you have this worm, your baby worm, unlocked. And then last but not least, the shaman here. The shaman gives you a lot of stuff. The shaman gives you access to the rocks, which are the most prized possession in the land. You can see that they go for 13 no matter what, but you can only deliver them to the port. And you need the shaman to be able to convert a relic into a rock. But if you start messing with the shaman, you no longer have access to the end game missions, which we will talk about here in a second. And the shaman, though, also gives you access to her acolytes throughout the board. So there's a lot going on with the shaman. Let's go back to the map and talk about everything the shaman has to offer. All right, so back here, looking at the larger map, let's talk about those missions. The shaman actually gives you or does not give you the ability to use missions. So if you are dealing with these mystical rocks, these moon rocks, you can't score for missions. This is another thematically, it doesn't make sense to me. But I guess since they're so lucrative, they had to balance it out some way, shape, or form. So at the end of every day, each of you are in player turn order are going to get to choose one of these cards and claim it. This is also going to determine the player order for the next round. So you would line them up in descending order, like so, and whoever claims the rightmost card gets the top spot on the track, turn order track for next time. But when you claim these cards, you either claim the instant benefit at the top, or you save these as missions for endgame scoring. But remember, if your shaman has been activated and you started dealing in moon rocks, you can no longer score for missions. So these cards would become useless and you do not gain the benefit at the top. These refresh at the end of every round. After they've been chosen, 3 more come out, and they are stacked in such a way that the ones that come out on the last round are more lucrative than the ones that are out on the first round. The last thing is the Acolytes. You'll notice that in each of the cities, here's one for example, there are pictures of hooded figures. Some only have 1 and some have 2. If you have access to the shaman, you have access to her acolytes. Your acolyte is, think of it as a 3-way combination of color matching. If you have an acolyte at a city, or first of all, if you have a shaman, if your shaman has an acolyte at a city that matches a die you have access to use or an action token you have access to use, so we're going to say white. So if I have access to use this white token, and there is a white shaman at a city with a white good, so 3-way tie for color, then I can pay that shaman 1 coin to deliver the good to my shelter. So obviously I have had to have put out my shelter somewhere, but this is a way for you to pick up goods without actually having to travel your worm to that location. Now you're still going to have to go to your shelter or your house to pick up the good, and you're going to have to pay the acolyte to deliver it, and you have to have unlocked the shaman. So a lot has to happen before you have access to these acolytes, but it is an option near, late game for you getting goods in one central location using that acolyte network. But again, it's going to cost you money, and money's the name of the game. The last thing here that I haven't pointed out yet are these ribbons here, or these badges, or pendants, whatever you want to call them, awards. The first person to deliver 4 of any one particular good gets this badge, and then those color goods become more lucrative for that person. They would go on your player board here, become worth more at the end of the game. So if I'm the first person to deliver 4, I would claim this 4 blues. I would claim this blue badge, and at the end of the game, I'm going to score more points for blue goods on my record of delivery than other goods. And there's no limit to the amount of badges that you can hold on your player board. So also, you'll notice that there are these little note tokens in speech bubbles next to every city, and you have a stack of note token speech bubbles in your player color. As a free action, as an action using any die color of any value, you can sing a song when you're at a city. You don't have to have delivered, you don't have to have picked up there. You just have to spend an action, waste an action token and a die to do so. And for every city that you have sung a song at, when you deliver a good to any other city, you get an additional coin for every note token you have out on the board. Your reputation has increased the more songs are sung about you. But if anybody comes behind you and sings after you in a city, they kick out your token and replace it with theirs. So, all of that, let's kind of summarize here. As we're traveling around, you need to spend a action matching the color of good that you want to pick up, which is why you can only pick up off the board the basic color actions, the blue, the red, the black, and the white. But it doesn't matter what the strength of the action is. You have to use any color die, but of a specific strength, to travel along the paths. The shorter the path, or the quicker it gets you to a city, the more dangerous it is for your worm, and the higher the number strength die needs to be spent. You can spend any die of any strength to care for your worm. At the beginning, black and white together to gain health, but the strength of that die is how much you regain. So the strength of the blue die is how much water you give back to your worm. The strength of the red die is how much food you give back to your worm, and the strength of the black and white die is how much you gain back in health. Any die value can be increased by spending prayer or money at a 1-to-1 ratio. And then there's the acolytes that we can spend. Again, the action token and die have to match the color of the acolyte, which also has to match the color of the good in that particular city, and we have to pay a coin. You're going to go around and you're going to get 3 turns within each round or day, so morning, afternoon, and evening. Each of those you can spend as many or take as many actions as you have action slots to come down here, and you push your tokens down and then you go push them back up to spend them. At the end of the day, we're all going to choose mission cards to either gain their instant benefit or tuck them aside for endgame scoring. New mission cards will come out, new turn order will be established, and we do all this over the course of 6 rounds. At the end of the game, everything gets converted to coins, essentially. Whoever has the most coins wins the game. That is how you play Sand. So, with all that being said, let's take a little turn and talk about how you can play the game solo against Alhazred here and his big nasty worm. So, setup for the solo game is pretty straightforward. You're essentially setting up for a 2-player game, and you're using these 2 bluish tiles here, Alhazred, and you place a black cube on Alhazred based on the difficulty level. So the 1, 2, or 3 is easy, medium, or hard. And you'll notice that the worm here doesn't have to use any water, food, health, so there's no tracking anything down here. All Alhazred cares about is the money and the goods. Every turn, when it is Alhazred's turn, he's going to take 3 actions based on 3 of these codex cards. And they're all going to look very similar. So as we flip these over here, you'll notice that there's 2 points of information here. There's a number, so that's how many we go, and then there's a direction, either counterclockwise or clockwise. What you're going to do is look for the location that Alhazred's worm is at. He always starts here kind of in the middle of the board. And you're also going to look for that little symbol that's at the top of the card, this little compass symbol. It's very small, but it essentially is at the top of every city and outpost. Alhazred never stops at Oasis. He always takes the shortcut. And again, because it doesn't cost him anything. He's spurred on by some magical entity that means he can run forever. But when you are taking its turn and its 3 actions, you're going to look, all right, here's my compass symbol, and my first one here is counterclockwise 3. So, and we're only counting shortcuts. So from here, he would go 1, 2, 3. He would take this path down here to Shin Thalahalahash. Then he would pick up one of these 2 goods. If there's 2, he picks up the leftmost one, and he plops it right down there. So if he enters a city, he's going to pick up goods if they're available. If you look and see that there would not be any goods to pick up in that particular city, they would move on to the next one. Looking for goods? No, move on to the next one. Looking to deliver? So that's what happens when he enters a city. He's going to just automatically pick up goods. Then in this case, he would look to go 4. So we find our little compass token. it's right here. And we're going to go clockwise this time. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's going to travel this time up to here. Since he's entered an outpost, there's no goods to pick up, but he has goods on him. He's going to deliver the red good. Ta-da! And he will gain, in this case, 1 coin. So you would give him 1 coin for that. If he ever delivers, say, the red and the black together, then he will gain this little token here, which at the end of the game, whoever has the highest value of those tokens gains an additional 12 points. And then last but not least, we're going 2 counterclockwise. We find our thing here. So 1, 2, he's circling back here. He's going to pick up this good, and he's going to throw it on his board. That's pretty much it. The worm just goes around and collects the goods and delivers. If they are ever able to deliver both, they would gain the craft or relic associated with that outpost. They don't deal in rocks. They don't deal in allies. They don't deal in tracks or prayer or prestige or anything like that. And depending on the difficulty level of Al-Hazred, they may or may not score when you put down into your record of delivery, and they may or may not sing songs and kick your songs out. Technically, if you play on hard, Al-Hazred starts with all of his songs out, and you have to go around removing them. Medium difficulty, he goes around, and if he finds a city with yours there, he kicks it out. So all of that's in the rule book. I'm not going to go through how he differs at each difficulty rating, but that's essentially how you play solo. It's very straightforward. You just look for the compass, you count the shortcut routes, you look to see, can the worm take an action when it gets there? If not, we keep moving around, and it's just picking up and delivering. So that's going to do it for our coverage of Sand and how to play. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.